there's not much reinventing the wheel. And people first want to go to, like you say, procedure.
It's like,
Do we have a procedure for someone going through transition? And that was one of the biggest things when I worked in HR. I still do, but I guess I'm more of a backslid in HR. And so, but that would be the number one thing for years. People come into my office and they would say, I've got this employee issue. And they'd say what it is. And my first comment and question would always be, have you sat down and had a conversation with them? Well, no. What's our procedure? For what?
For what? Having a conversation?
Yeah, like you want me to explain to you how to talk? And then it dawned on me, it's like, oh my gosh, that's another part of that education and training is like, we have not developed our leaders to have healthy, critical conversations and dialogues. Mm-hmm. And we don't allow people to be comfortable with any sort of uncomfort. And so because if there's not a procedure or a way to just get rid of something, well, then it's uncomfortable and we have to work through it. And it's like, we don't train people to work through that level of uncomfort anymore. And a lot of times people who are marginalized and are doing things like you're writing a book, I'm doing a podcast. I'm finding a little more getting stronger in my vulnerability and being able to say things openly. It's easier for us to be able to do and say these things, but not for everyone. And I kind of got off topic a little bit.
No.
About it. But the thought is being able to provide in that they're simple tactics and just being able to have a logical, kind, respectful conversation with another individual. Oh, I remember the point I was trying to make. I really honestly think after having COVID, there are some things jump out of my brain and I'm like, where did it go? And after having COVID, and this has happened quite a bit, but then I don't know. But so somebody like me has been through some traumatic experiences. Someone like you has been through, and I'll be honest, I have not. I was able to get through the first chapter. I have a whole line of books I'm reading, and yours is coming up in the next two, but that I'm going to read. I was really hoping to have it done. But you have felt the marginalization. So we've been through the uncomfort. So it makes it a little easier for us to be able to carry a little bit of the burden, to be able to say, it's okay. We can carry the uncomfortable conversation and lead you through it safely.
Yeah, I think that's true. And I think, in terms of a manager having a conversation with someone, I mean, especially if it's like an employee who comes to them and says, hey, I want to transition. I think kind of the table stakes of that conversation for the manager is, you better have a good understanding of what the company's policy is relative to, trans inclusion in this case, making sure knowing what the policy is. Obviously you have to have a safety net, I think. From a policy perspective, you need to know that. And or if you're dealing with an employee who has a problem with a trans person who's in your group, it's like knowing what the policy is, because then that's gonna frame your conversation, right? It's like, and some of the trainings I do, we do these scenarios where, and one of them, it's called, I'm not comfortable with that. Well, and that's basically a coworker coming up and saying, I'm not comfortable with this trans person using the ladies' room. Well, the short answer that I get from a lot of the groups that go through that, and when we do the discussion afterwards, so it's like, hey, honey, you got to get over it. Because, the company policy states that, This individual has a right to use the restroom that's consistent with their gender identity. It's the end of the story. If you got a problem with that, then maybe you want to use a different bathroom or what have you. But again, it's knowing what the policy is, and then that creates the framework for that conversation. But to go in and say, "Oh my God, I don't know what to say," well, that's it's been a little lazy, quite frankly.
It's being
As
a
a
little
manager,
lazy. Yeah.
I think so. I
Yeah.
think so, and and you need to be on. You need to be aware.